Hello everyone and welcome to Unfiltered with Matt. In today's video we're going to discuss the news that was recently released that Monster High, the movie, will be getting a sequel on Nickelodeon. So I know that this comes as mixed kind of news for fans of the original Monster High cartoon series and also the animated movies because there has been some criticism about the stories and characters kind of changing. And I thought we'd kind of talk about the sequel and what implications that have on really fans being heard and what potential changes could be made in the sequel of this series. Now, there's a few things that we probably do want to keep. And as somebody who is just now recently just watching with my boyfriend the other movies and cartoons, I am noticing a little more of the kind of contrast, and some of the creative choices do make sense just because of, yes, you're transitioning to a live action format versus a cartoon, and others are a little more questionable, and I can see where the fans are coming from in regards to that. But there are some potentials to, make some positive changes here. But the one thing that we definitely can say is, if it's getting a sequel, that means the Monster High brand is pretty strong. That means also not only did original fans probably turn out for this movie, but also probably new fans. Now, the big question is, will the new audience be strong enough to actually keep maybe the franchise going for a third movie? And will the original fans who watched the first movie and were disappointed, will they turn up for a second time? Now, we are far away from really knowing the answer for that, but we do know that the second movie will start filming in January. So, so we already know with the sequel kind of being approved that the numbers have been pretty good for the original movie premiering on Nickelodeon. Now, it did premiere on other networks as well. I think it was Nick Jr. also premiered it. And of course, we also know it was on Paramount Plus. Now, my boyfriend has watched it multiple times because he really does enjoy the musical numbers and just the lightheartedness of the movie and the messaging overall in the movie. Now, there are some questions that remain. Will there be a bigger budget? Will fans' voices be heard? What new characters will be introduced in the sequel? And I'm interested to know what characters you would like to be introduced to the sequel that you've seen in the original movies. And what will the overall message be of the sequel? I think we already know the story is going to involve Draculaura and the witches going after her and trying to use her to defeat the vampires. So we already have that kind of set up here from the ending of the first movie, which is an interesting story to pursue. I wonder what other messages will be part of this. And we're going to get through maybe some of the kind of criticism and what changes probably could happen in the sequel. So as far as what changes I could foresee individuals wanting and maybe what the studio should consider is maybe having a larger budget. Hopefully, since this was successful, of course, you have to be kind of responsible with your budgeting. But I think that probably, a little improvement on the CGI. I'm not saying that it was bad, but there were certain areas, like when they were transitioning between, the school that was real versus the not so real CGI school. You can notice the difference there. I think there were some cool effects. For example, I think it was, I forgot which character it was now, but there was a scene where one of the monsters was drinking from a drink and there was spiders coming out. I kind of thought that was like a nice little nod there. I thought it was nice that they added special effects when the monster that was in the water was going under the bridge as they're talking. So I would like to see a little more things added there, and hopefully some more creative decisions in regards to the budget. So I think that would be a good choice during the second movie. I also think that more locations and sets would be nice. I think that watching now the cartoon series and the movies, I do see that they do get to go to different places. Not that I really mind being a Monster High, because really in the first movie you're kind of exploring the characters. You really don't get to know more about the school or get to experience that environment. So if they did spend a majority of time in Monster High, I wouldn't be opposed to that. but I just think it would be nice to add other locations as well. Now, one of the things I did find in the original movie that was a little kind of challenging in the beginning part of the movie when they went to Claudine's house with her father, it did seem a little Hallmark kind of moment there as far as the way it was filmed and the set itself, which actually was probably a real home. So just some things like that will probably tweak a little bit. But overall, yes, I did like the original movie. So there's some things I would like to continue. Um, and I think that another thing maybe they could change is kind of improved makeup and kind of practical effects. I think I saw like some criticism with TikTok videos, of people painting themselves like the characters in Monster High, and people were commenting that, hey, a lot of these things that the people are doing themselves with makeup for the monsters of Monster High and recreating the looks is a lot better than what we saw in the movie. And I think that the clear area where that kind of stands out when you look at the movie is look at any of the secondary monsters or background monsters, and I think that some of their outfits and the makeup was, I hate to say it, a little more lazier. Like I saw like someone just being painted green, or there were some people that just had hardly any makeup. And yes, in the cartoon, I did see some monsters that look more human, and I was like really questioning, like, okay, what kind of monster are they? But definitely, I think that some of the makeup could be improved just to bring it up a notch. And I don't think that's a huge thing in the budget to really ask. And I probably would reference, some of these TikTok videos and YouTube videos where people are painting themselves just to get an idea of like some of the characters and the way they look, especially in the background. I mean, you're not actually using prosthetics in lots of these characters, so it's just actually, paint and makeup. So I think that some of the technique could be improved. And I'm not a makeup artist, but I do agree when I see like the contrast, there I was like, okay, I could see what everybody's saying about the makeup for those other characters. Now, the other area is just more monsters. I think it would be interesting to have more monsters kind of in the school. I think also like nice Easter eggs. Obviously, I think they should introduce uh, monsters from the cartoon series into here as maybe additional characters. Of course, they don't want to oversaturate it because we still didn't get kind of enough time with the other characters. And I think like Claudine and Gulia, as well as Laguna, and there's many others, were there secondary characters and can be developed in the second movie as well. And of course, learning our main cast of monsters. But I think having nice Easter eggs to get the fans excited about other kind of background monsters that are walking in the background of going, "Ooh, look who that is," probably would be a good idea in the sequel. And if you're just kind of, painting, and doing makeup, that's not much of a cost to think about. Now, of course, then they think they have to commit to an actor and things like that. But if they're in the background and they don't really have, let's say, much of a speaking role, and I hate to say that, but it's a nice Easter eggs for the fans to get something to be excited about. Now, I thought, like, also in addition to more monsters, right there was like Claudine, looking at the cartoon movies and that. I didn't know that she had siblings, so it would be nice to kind of introduce them. Maybe if you don't want to do it in this movie because you're already having the story of Draculaura, maybe you could add them maybe for a third movie. But I thought that would probably be good. I saw that there was some criticism also with the battle, the way the kind of main villain was just comes and goes really quickly, just turns to stone, and that's kind of it. So maybe there could be a little more development now. I did see some of the, cartoon movies where they did have a little bit of a battle kind of thing happen. And since you are introducing, the witches and kind of vampire, it would be nice that there was maybe kind of a magical battle or something in there. So maybe a little more action in there. Now I know that maybe Monster High is not known for that, but it would be nice a little something that they could do. Now, what is a final recommendation of things to change is probably align the characters a little more with their story without conflicting with what has already been done. Now, I know a few people have criticized some of the changes. I think it's probably a little too late to talk about Frankie and that her parents and one of her parents is Frankenstein. So we already established that her parents actually created her as opposed to, Frankenstein being her father. So I'm not really sure why they changed that, but I think they've kind of already kind of committed to that, unless maybe Frankie kind of discovers through her parents, like, hey, we actually didn't create you. Your father's actually Frankenstein. I mean, they could do something like that. Now, I know some of the criticism also was in regards to the relationship between Cleo and Deuce, that they kind of broke up, and in the cartoon series, they're together. And I think hopefully, maybe in the sequel, kind of getting those two characters to come back together, which I really don't mind. I'm not really connected to, let's say, Claudine being with Deuce. So I don't think that that's too much of a move to appease the fans. And I think that in the first movie that Claudine did set herself up from being, someone who was a little bit unlikable to actually being someone who is likable and having the other side, which I did see a little bit in the cartoon series as well. So them getting back together after that, I could see that happening. And I think also exploring a little more of Gulia, that she is smart. And that's not something they really explored in this movie. So allowing that character. Now, Frankie did get to use her smarts of the different brains in regards to that. And I'm not sure if they really touched on that too much in the cartoon series, but maybe, utilizing Gulia a little more as well. It is interesting that they changed her color from blue to green, and they also changed Frankie's color from green kind of to a blue. So that was kind of interesting in regards to that. So those are the things that I think that should change in regards to the movie. Now, what things I think should stay the same, I would probably say keep the cast. I think that they were very committed, and I think a lot of people who maybe had criticisms of the movie and actually went onto the set did recognize that the cast really did care about the characters, and there was a really good camaraderie on the set, and they were really passionate about delivering something that was a positive message, and try to keep true to the original characters. So I think that you should keep the cast. I also think that the musical numbers were really great, and I looked at some of the cartoons and all those things, and I did see there's music, and some of them did have little musical parts. But for the movie, I would definitely keep that as part of the formula that they've done, because the first movie had some pretty good music. Now, one other thing I'll probably recommend is, as far as the sets and, the school, I like the aesthetic. I'll probably, keep some of those things with upgrading, of course, some of the things. Now, I do know that, some of the fans may not tune in to the sequel of the movie. But I'm excited to see what happens in the series and see the developments. But I'm interested to know what your thoughts are, knowing that Nickelodeon has greenlit a sequel to the live action series. And also on October 28th, we do have the actual series premiering on Nickelodeon. And I'm going to give it a watch because I know my boyfriend wants to watch it as well. Because of my boyfriend, I actually have been keeping up with it a little more probably than when I would have on my own. But I thought this was an interesting thing just to talk about. So if you like what you're seeing and you would like more videos like this, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and leave a comment on your thoughts in regards to Monster High getting a sequel. So until next time, thank you and stay safe.